Christine Blasey Ford, who is back in the news. Wait, before I get to her, this just breaking. Judge Merchant, who's the one, Merchan, by the way, who's overseeing the criminal case involving the Stormy Daniels hush money payment, says April 15th is the day. So the Trump trial begins April 15th, which is not much of a delay. That's obviously much closer to what the prosecution wanted. Might be, wait, what's today? That's like 3 weeks, isn't it? What's today?
Less than a month.
Yeah, that's like less than even the DA said Trump deserved. So yeah, it's going forward. And I think we all know how that one's going to end. I don't think there's going to be any legitimate independent person shuddering when Trump is found guilty of this thing. It's not, frankly, the most interesting trial. But okay, moving on. Christine Blasey Ford, coincidentally, is back in the news. That is the accuser of Justice Kavanaugh, who claimed 30 years earlier, this is when he was being confirmed, he had allegedly sexually assaulted her or attempted a sexual assault of her in high school. And the story didn't have any independent witnesses. To the contrary, she had a best friend who said that she didn't believe it. And I think her dad said he didn't believe it. It was like a long list of people around Christine Blasey Ford who had real questions about her story. But it led to a full-on media frenzy with women coming out of the woodwork, and I'm just going to say it, making shit up. Now, I've said before, Christine Blasey Ford, of the women who came forward against Kavanaugh, her story, okay, you could believe it or not believe it. You could not believe any one of the other women who came forward. No honest, sane person. It's just like the number of things that undermined these alleged other accusers, which is just like, you'd have to be a complete hack to have given any credence to them. Christine Blasey Ford versus Brett Kavanaugh was a he said, she said. But 30 years later, when the guy, how's he supposed to disprove something 30 years after the fact? Well, she's written a book now. And she is also getting the star treatment going on all the shows. And you will believe, but you kind of won't believe the way the media is treating her now. I think we've got, it's 16. Look at this media tour and how she's being treated.
That is bravery under a whole different kind of fire.
That's right.
Are you speaking out now so that you can take charge of the narrative?
I applaud you on your courage and your bravery.
Thank you for what you did. I think speaking truth to power has an enormous cost, as we all know. He was so angry with you for calling him out and ruining his pristine reputation.
How did you write your book without re-traumatizing yourself? Do you think that the hearing was even more traumatizing than the assault? How were you brave enough to go on in spite of those threats?
So, I was rather presumptive, wouldn't you say, in the nature of the questions around her, that this, in fact, must have happened, as opposed to leaning on the many doubts that have been cast on the story. And, of course, Justice Kavanaugh's staunch denials.
I'm sure, in defense of the last questioner, it probably was very difficult for Christine Blasey Ford to write the book because she kept changing her story so many times during the testimony that it's very difficult. Will we get the first edition of the book? Will there be a second or a third edition? Now, just as I say with other accusers 30, 40 years later, I don't know if the woman was lying. I'm not particularly inclined to believe her story, but she might have been sincere. She might have believed one version of the stories that she was telling because your memory changes decades after the fact, which is why I know it's an contrary and unpopular opinion right now in our age of mob justice and throwing caution to the wind. But statutes of limitations are a good thing. They exist for a reason. And we decided during the Me Too movement, because mostly a bunch of liberals in Hollywood decided to behave like boors, we decided that we were going to totally upend the American system of justice and get rid of statutes of limitations. But that actually, I think that's a bad idea. And furthermore, when accusations come out at precisely the moment that a very politically significant event is about to occur that could derail that political event, I just have a really hard time believing it. It's not as though Brett Kavanaugh just totally disappeared from public view and, he went off and lived a private life. Brett Kavanaugh had been a very public lawyer and judge for his entire career. Christine Blasey Ford never came out when he was first appointed to a federal court. Christine Blasey Ford never came out when he was working for Ken Starr on the Bill Clinton special counsel investigation, because those were feisty, controversial, they were political, but what they were really concerned about was the swing of the court and what could upend all sorts of liberal jurisprudence that they loved, up to and including Roe v. Wade. That's why that court seat became so important. And so when all of that happens at these perfectly convenient times, when Christine Blasey Ford reemerges years later, just during an election year, to tell her story, now probably the 12th version of it, I don't see how anyone could really honestly believe that. And so what does it become? Regardless of whatever happened to Christine Blasey Ford, what it becomes is a kind of political fan fiction. People are buying this book to just vent and feel a catharsis of political hate toward their opponents. That's why it's coming out in 2024. That's the only reason anybody's going to buy it. And it's why ultimately these sorts of accounts are worthless.
Well, I wonder whether if Tara Reid, Joe Biden accuser, writes a book, if she'd be getting similar treatment. Think she'd get booked by Terry Gross over on NPR or by the ladies of The View? Think she'd be getting questions like, oh my God, how courageous are you? What was it like to be re-victimized again when you came forward, right? The presumptions in there. It's just such an obvious double standard. Christine Blasey Ford, she'll continue to get this kind of treatment. I'm sure we're going to be watching it for some time. But it reminded me, Michael, of one of the most dishonest things. So just by way of background, when I was at NBC and I had that morning show, we would do a roundtable of discussions about the news. And I was the same me in those discussions as I've always been. Go back and look at them. I mean, it was kind of interesting to see the veil come down for NBC to realize just because Trump didn't like me didn't mean I was a liberal. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I actually was same person I am today in most ways. And the pile on Justice Kavanaugh was absolutely disgusting to me. And I was out there every morning trying to set the record straight about him and what actually had been alleged and hadn't been alleged. And there was a young guy over there named Jacob Soboroff who came on the set and tried to spew a bunch of nonsense about Kavanaugh. And I let him have it. Now, I will tell you in advance that I do believe the segment I'm about to show you is the reason, after my discussion about blackface on NBC that led to the end of my show, he was one of the most vicious to attack me. And I would suggest to you it had absolutely nothing to do with his feelings on Halloween costumes and everything to do with the following exchange.
This is the reason that people don't trust Washington. This is the reason people don't go out to vote. Republicans and Democrats cannot even agree on how to handle not one, not two, not three, but 4 alleged assaults, sexual assaults at this point, and how to investigate
There are not 4
those.
alleged assaults.
2. Let's say it's
no,
1.
there aren't. Let's walk
2.
through it. No, because this is what happens when you're in this position for Judge Kavanaugh. Everybody just tries to lump them together and say 4 or 5 accusers accusing him of sexual assault. Not true.
Irrespective of the number.
No, it matters. The facts matter.
Okay,
Dr. Christine. No, let me say.
Yeah.
Dr. Christine Blasey Ford accuses him of an attempted sexual assault on her, a sexual assault and attempted rape. There are no corroborating witnesses to that event. Number 2 is a woman who says, while at Yale with Brett Kavanaugh in a circle, he may have exposed himself in a drunken stupor in a drinking game. Nobody else at the party confirms that account. Not one person. Number 3 is the Avenatti witness. And that woman is talking about a gang rape, and she doesn't accuse Brett Kavanaugh of ever having laid a finger on her. Number 4 is an anonymous person whose account comes from the mother of another person, all of whom are anonymous, says her daughter's friend was allegedly pushed against a wall by a young Brett Kavanaugh. None of the actual participants of that event have come forward to actually say it happened. There was a 5th woman who came forward who has already now recanted saying, I made it up. So let's be clear on what the facts are.
Little walk down memory lane for you there, Michael. And this is what the media does.
Why aren't you at NBC anymore, Megyn? I'm just so shocked.
It doesn't take much, right? It's like, a little fact checking here or there by a person in the media can actually make a difference. But there are few and far between out there who will actually do it irrespective of party. And Christine Blasey Ford deserves the same kind of fact checking now that she's on her book tour. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't get a pass just because she raised the allegations a few years ago and he got confirmed. No, she should be put through the same types of questions if she wants to put the story out there as she was when she first raised them.
But no one cares is the problem. No one buying her book cares whether or not Kavanaugh did it. No one, as you made, I think, beautifully clear on that panel on NBC all those years ago, no one really cares about the difference between the Kavanaugh accusers. All they care about is the headline, Kavanaugh credibly accused of rape. I mean, the account of the criminal Avenatti's client was that there was a gang rape and she's confident Brett Kavanaugh was there. And how did she know? Because he was wearing a Georgetown prep sweatshirt. He might as well have been wearing a "My name is Brett Kavanaugh, future judge" button on his lapel. I mean, it was just so
Wait, let's not forget
transparent.
Avenatti also represented Stormy Daniels.
And Stormy Daniels. That's wow. Talk about full circle. Right. So of course, no one's going to be buying this because they care about the truth. This is why, as you say, Tara Reid, who, whether she's telling the truth or not, her allegation against Joe Biden is certainly more plausible than the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, she had contemporaneous
witnesses to whom she complained at the time. I spoke with them personally. These are well-heeled, professional, smart women who I spoke to who said, yes, she told me this at the time in detail, the same story. It's never changed. Her mother went on Larry King and mentioned that her daughter had been the victim of a sexual assault of a well-known U.S. senator. Tara Reid had all that. Christine Blasey Ford didn't have any of that. But they destroyed Tara Reid because she had the nerve to accuse a Democrat. Financial experts thought we were in the clear. They were anticipating around 6 rate cuts by the Fed this year, and then the inflation data came out higher than expected. This isn't going away anytime soon. How could it? The U.S. is $34 trillion in the hole, and yet we just keep on printing money, which pushes the prices you pay every day even higher. So you can either bury your head in the sand or you can do something about it. One option to consider is to diversify a portion of your savings into gold with Birch Gold Group. Gold can be your hedge against inflation, and Birch Gold makes it easy to own. They will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, and you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Text Megyn to 989898 and get your free info kit on gold. Then speak with a precious metal specialist about how you can choose to protect your savings from persistent inflation with gold. Text Megyn, MEGYN, to 989898 now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.